Daniel from Canada, who's been trying to call in last, I think, week or two, and we just had other callers. I hadn't been able to take it, but Daniel, I got you now because our other caller, I think, was a troll. So Daniel, you are live on Truth Wanted now. What's going on?
Well, it's just usual. Yeah, no, I know I called in the last couple of weeks, and that's okay. You know, if people haven't been on, you know, I prefer you take other people. You've taken a lot of calls with me, and I thank you for that. No, I just wanted to call in and remember last week everyone said they were writing books.
Yeah, last week was a really weird show. I think I was already in kind of I don't know if I was in a bad mood because I wasn't sleeping too well that week or whatever, but more than one person was trying to tell me about a book that they were writing or that they were trying to get other people to write. And that was a really weird vibe. I didn't like that. I didn't appreciate that. So don't go self-promoting projects on my show, please. But yes, so please continue.
Yeah, it inspired me to write a book. It inspired me to write a book, Dan. I'm going to write a book, and it's.
Please don't. Please tell me you're joking, Daniel from Canada. I like talking to you because you're nice, even though we disagree. But please tell me you're joking. Please. I need to know you're joking.
The book's going to be called Brad Stein's Funniest Jokes.
Oh, okay. All right. Now I know you're joking. Thank you. Yeah, because that book wouldn't exist because Brad Stein has no funny jokes. But anyway. Brad Stein beef to the side there. Go ahead.
Would be a very light read.
Would be a very light read. Would be a ripoff, if anything. But yeah, tell me what you really got, because I know you got a real topic for me, Daniel.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Have you ever heard of a UFO researcher named Jacques Vallee?
Jacques Vallee. No.
Yeah.
I don't think I have.
Well, He's have you ever seen the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind? The old Spielberg.
Sure have. Have you seen it, Ben?
He was the French.
No.
His character was the French guy.
Oh, okay. I found it. JACQUES and then Vallee. It's French, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it. All right, I clocked it. Got the Wikipedia up. All right, we're good, Daniel. What about Jacques Vallee?
Well, I saw a speech by him, and he said something interesting. He talked about having a conversation with a World War II veteran, and this guy was part of the unit that would track reports of the German submarines in the Atlantic when they were, torpedoing ships and stuff like that. And they were quite a menace during the war, right? And he was talking about how people would report sightings and stuff, and how what they were talking about, in ufology, how the government. He was saying that we got the UFO phenomenon backwards, and he was talking about how if you go back throughout history, if you go back to Project Blue Book, and to even recent. The government reports on the UFO phenomena, they always tell us that 98% of the sightings are, explainable, are usually misidentifications or lying or whatever, or hoaxes, but usually it's misidentifications, and 98% have prosaic, down-to-earth explanations.
Okay.
Then they tell us that there's just 2%, but they say this other 2%, they say they don't know what it is, and they and they basically just kind of say, it's just kind of be nonchalant about it. Just like, well, we don't know what it is, and therefore, who cares? So almost. And he was saying, what if they had the same attitude towards the submarines, the German submarine sightings of periscopes and stuff like that? If they let just 2% of those, if they just ignored 2% of those, he said it would have been so dangerous, right? And I think it's a good point that we just kind of fluff off this this tiny.
So here's the thing though. There's a difference though between, especially if we're talking about it, like a government agency or a military agency, admitting or not admitting to knowledge of submarines or UFOs. Either way, even if they said that they don't know about a certain thing to the public. We have to recognize that there's a different thing that they will often say to the public versus what they actually recognize and perceive to be there. Like with the case of submarines, especially like military submarines, there's a lot of things that the military will let be military knowledge and not be civilian knowledge. And so they might say, hey, like we have no knowledge of this thing if they were asked about it. That doesn't mean that they don't know about it, but it's not necessarily something that they're trying to let people know that they know. Like, and I think it's something with UFOs, even in a sense, like all that means is that there's an object that is flying that is not identified. And if you, number one, if there's something, let's say you have like some kind of device that can be airborne or some other technology like an airplane, a jet, whatever, that you don't necessarily want to be super common knowledge, like told to everybody on Earth because the press can leak pretty far. Like, you're not going to necessarily be like, oh yeah, that's our jet, that's our thing, when it's being useful in a more like a less public setting, right? So I think there's a certain layer of discretion, like when approaching certain discussions about this, that like, yeah, even if people say we don't know what this thing is, number one, do they actually not know, or are they not wanting to tell you about it? And this is not being conspiratorial. Like, this is not a conspiracy thing. Like, it is just fact that there are things that the military can have that they don't want everybody to know because it kind of inhibits the process of like having a stealth thing. It doesn't mean they don't know it. Otherwise, in other cases, there are also things that could be there that we don't know about, and it might be honest that we don't know about. And there's a possibility that people are not saying that they don't know what it is because it's embarrassing to say, especially if you're a leader of a country, that you don't know what something is. And so there's a lot of, when we're taking into account these specific issues, you have to factor in the fact that there's a lot of like saving face with regard to these discussions. That is more of a social factor that may or may not be accurate with what is actually happening, if that makes sense.
Yeah. My take on this, Daniel, and I'll be short, is that like there's a reason why Project Blue Book isn't a thing anymore. And it's not because they got too many things, of aliens or evidence of aliens. It's because it wasn't useful to I believe it's the Air Force that started Project Blue Book, right? So it's like, it doesn't produce enough actionable intelligence, right? So yeah, you can see a thing and you can not know what it is. And that doesn't mean it's a military target. It doesn't mean it's a submarine. If you have knowledge, if you are not sure about something, but you're sure it's a submarine, that's knowledge of something, right? Like, okay, it's a submarine. That's very different from saying, oh, it's a submarine and we don't know who it's from, versus, oh, here's a thing that we don't even know what it is, right? Like it's a false positive isn't exactly going to be useful for you either, right? So it doesn't surprise me that we're going to have instances, and like we do today with the current UFO hearings and stuff, right? Where, yeah, they're going to say, yeah, we don't know what it is. And it's not going to be like a huge deal, because the stuff that they think that they might know, like Ben said, we're probably not going to be privy to until 50 years later when there's a hearing in the Senate or something, and then something comes out, like the Carl Sagan stuff, like I was talking about earlier. Like, we didn't know about that till after Carl Sagan died. But guys, Carl Sagan helped the U.S. government try to nuke the moon. That's real. Like, sometimes reality's weirder than fiction. But anyway, that's my take. Danny, what do you think?
Yeah. I hear you guys are making good points. I'm just saying it's just, you have this. They do admit that there's a percentage of UFO sightings, a small percentage, but it's a significant number. And they are crafts that seem to be doing extraordinary things and extraordinary capabilities. And I don't know what they can tell us. Sure, if they can say
if it's a UFO,
but
that's a key thing, though, right? If the conclusion is we don't know what this is and it's a UFO, then yes, it would display extraordinary capabilities, but they don't know it's a UFO, right? If we assume the null hypothesis, right, and then it doesn't really do much for them, right? We can't just look at everything we don't see or don't understand and be like, yep, gotta be aliens, you know? Like sometimes it's just a glitch in the process. I don't know.
Right. No. I agree, but I think it's just some people, they just view that percentage and they just think nothing of it or something. And I think it's usually a significant number. Like I've had a UFO sighting. Like I told you about it one time. Remember you guys had a show and
yep, I remember.
It was something. Did you never made a show of that, right?
I've never made a show of what?
I stayed on of my UFO sighting. You remember I stayed on and the show went off the air and we talked?
Oh, yeah. There was a time. Yeah. So there was a time where we were experimenting. We were trying to see if we could do extra calls and then release them later for Patreon content. And I don't think we really followed through with that. But yeah, there was a time where we actually did have a conversation about that and that wasn't on the air. Yep, that's true. So.
Well, what I saw was was 2007, and I was traveling from the.
Well, okay, yeah, I not to be rude. I don't want to get into that whole thing, right? I just want to stick to this one topic, which I think you brought up a very interesting point, right? This famous UFOologist, who, at least from what I can tell from a cursory reading of Wikipedia, seems to be the real deal. Helped out on ARPANET and stuff. Probably smarter than me, right? Definitely believes in UFOs. Definitely believes that maybe American military or other militaries have knowledge of it. That's a very interesting perspective. How can we explain that, right? Or why would his perspective be?
I just have a question about this whole thing. Like, what? Like, let's say, for all intents and purposes, that you did see a UFO, and that what you're saying is correct. What does that change about the way you live your life? What does that change about anything?
Well, again, briefly, what I saw was an orb, in the sky, and then I saw two more materialize beside it, and then this lasted about 15 to 20 minutes, and then I had a good look at them. They were like there's a few blocks away in the sky, maybe like 100 feet in the air. And I had a really good look at them, and they were just glowing balls. Like they look like the X-rays. The best I can say is like an X-ray of the sun.
Yeah. So what? So what if there's glowing balls that look like X-ray? Like so what?
But something happened. Hold it.
What?
But yeah. Well, first of all, they materialized out of nothing. Two of them did. I saw in front of my eyes.
Where did they go? Where did they go after? They didn't. Did they stay there? Are they still there? Can we go find them? Like, are they still here?
Ben, I'm trying to finish.
No, but here's my point. Even if you saw something materialize, is it still part of the reality that we interact with? Like, is it still present? Can we go there and find it? Can we do anything with it? If not, like, even if something appeared, does that have consequences on anything else? Like, are we going to change what we're doing based on that experience that you had? And I don't know if that's the case. Like, I need some more things to happen and to continually happen for us to really do anything about it.
Well, something more did happen. As I continued to watch it, they were perfectly still, but when they started to move, they suddenly stopped being orbs, and it's like a switch was pulled, and they turned into some sort of craft with a bright strobe light on the end, and they flew in different directions.
What do you think happened after that? Like, if this thing turned into a craft and flew away? Like, what do you think happened, and what do you think will happen because that thing happened?
I have no idea.
So then if we then it's fine. That's fine. And it's fine to say that I had an experience that I don't really know how to explain and I don't know what's going to come of it. But if we don't know, why is there a need to obsess over this thing that we can't control anymore? We don't know where it's going to go. Sure, if you haven't experienced it again, if something persists, if we have something later that we're able to make something of, sure, but why do we need to focus on that in this moment when there's nothing to do about it?
Well, because there have been a lot of other reports too. There's many more.
But what is there to do besides thinking about what happened? Like, is there anything, like, if you're going to pick things to do with your life at this moment, or like things to spend your time on, why is that the thing that we keep going back to, that we can't do anything about? Why is that the thing?
I really don't know how to answer your question. I'm not obsessed with it. I'm just saying it's something that happened in my life. It's something that I witnessed.
And that's fine. And that's fine to have something that you don't know how to explain. The question we're having is, why is there this need to explain this thing that you don't understand, and to continually go back and keep trying to explain it, instead of saying like, hey, this was a thing that was weird. I don't know how to interpret it. And maybe I won't know how to interpret it. Like, it just seems like an interesting thing to go back to. There's always going to be things we don't know how to explain. And at some point, you kind of have to be okay with saying, like, I don't understand this. There's not much more I can gain from continuing to think about this when no information has changed at all. And like, it sucks to say that. And like, I hate to like take that approach with it, but like, there's only so much you can, and especially since your memory decreases over time, and even if there was something there, how accurately now are we remembering this? There's so many more variables brought into the equation after the fact at this point that isn't even useful to engage in this discussion. And maybe Dan has different thoughts about it. But I don't know. That's kind of, it just seems unnecessary in a way.
Well, because it's a part of the bigger phenomenon. I mean, there's more to it than just that. There's been a lot more, and there's the abduction phenomenon, and that's never been to me explained properly. Or
has it? But the abduction phenomenon, like all of that, like there's reports of it. Have any of those things been demonstrated though, or are they just reports of it?
The reports.
Is there anything beyond the reports? How do we, so here's the question. If we want this to be significant, how do we move from these are reports to demonstrating that this thing happened and that there's something significant to continuing to think about it? How do we demonstrate that? Because that's kind of what you need to do here.
But a question I have for you, Ben, is if someone reports being abducted, don't we have really three truths? That it could be three possibilities what happened, and only three. Either they're lying, they're having a mental phenomena, a hallucination, or it's true, or it actually happened,
or they're mistaken.
Aren't those the three?
Yeah. I disagree that they're only and it's odd. You're posing no, that argument you're just posing is the same argument that people use to talk about Jesus, and it's odd that we're going to a Jesus argument for UFO claims. Are you I'm not like, are you a Christian by chance? I don't want to like
he's not Christian.
So
Daniel's not Christian.
Do you think that when Christians use that argument that they're correct in using that argument? Is that argument convince you of Jesus?
They're talking about something supernatural. This has nothing to do with the supernatural.
This is also supernatural. Like, you're making the same logical mistake that Christians are. You made the exact same argument even. Why is this argument convincing for UFOs but not convincing for Jesus?
Are you familiar, Daniel, with the argument of C.S. Lewis posed that Jesus is either liar, lunatic, or Lord?
What?
Have you heard this before? Ben's talking about something very specific. C.S. Lewis once coined the phrase, Jesus was either a liar, a lunatic, or a Lord. and this has been used in popular apologetics since then. Have you ever heard of that before? Because that's what he's talking about.
Not really. No.
Yeah, that's what Ben's talking about here. So basically, his point, right, is that this is what Christians use to convince people that Jesus is the real deal, because either Jesus is, mentally, off, right, or he is telling the truth and he's God, or he's a liar and he's deliberately deceiving people. But if we think about it, there's other options, right? People have often proposed legend as being the other L, right? Could be stories that were told about Jesus sort of get told about him more and more over time that don't reflect the reality of what actually happened. There could also be the fact that maybe he legitimately is mistaken about what he thinks is happening, right? Which doesn't necessarily imply deceit. It doesn't necessarily imply mental illness either, especially for the followers, right? So, there's other explanations we can think of for this. And Ben's trying to draw a parallel here with the alien thing, right? There could be other explanations besides people deliberately lying or being mentally, deficient in some way, or aliens are real, right? So that's kind of the parallel that's being drawn. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, alien can be maybe not necessarily extraterrestrial, but I would think it would be. But well, like
I don't know why they wouldn't be. What do you mean? Wait, hold on. Wait, can we explore that for just a second? What do you mean they wouldn't be extraterrestrial?
Well, there's you can look up a scientist, Gary Nolan. I believe he's an immunologist.
Oh no!
Oh shit!
He's got some interesting thoughts on ufology, and he doesn't believe it's alien like extraterrestrial. He thinks it's some phenomenon that's been part of our existence, our civilizations forever.
You talk about alien microbes.
Kelly was talking about the other week.
Oh, okay.
Like how the UFO phenomenon goes back centuries and stuff. Like
yeah.
It didn't just happen after World War II.
That's a whole other thing. But Daniel, we are running out of time. I got to get to some other callers. Yeah. But before we let you go, I want to give you a chance to respond, because we said a lot here. Like this deconstruction of what's essentially the liar, lunatic, Lord. Do you find that compelling in any way? That do you at least find it still as compelling as you did before? This idea that it has to be one of those three options.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just. Like I said, I mean, the Jesus thing, I mean, that's, we're talking about, something supernatural, like if he's the son of God, right? If he's God and all this. Yeah. And, I mean, that's a very fascinating argument. I'll look into that.
Okay. We'll let you sleep on that. We'll let you sleep on that. Thank you, Daniel, for calling in and sharing your thoughts. I appreciate it. And that's all Daniel. We love Daniel. You missed it, Ben, because we were looking at pictures of figures on Mars. That was one of my favorite things that we've done this year. It was awesome. It was so cool. And Daniel sent those in. So obviously, I don't think they're true, and knows that, but we still have these discussions anyway because
they're fun.
I don't know. I like it.